Yes, sir, and thank you for asking about this. This is something that our organization, IAVA, takes very seriously because we recognize that our members are all over the country. One of the biggest successes of communityofveterans.org has been because a veteran in Tennessee can talk to a veteran in Florida securely, knowing they're both vets, and they can talk about what's going on, what they're experiencing, and all of a sudden those hundreds of miles go away, and they help each other deal with these issues. But I think one of the biggest problems is the VA is making steps. They're trying to use Facebook. They're trying to use Twitter. But they're using it as press releases, saying, this is great, this is what we've done. And it's very regimented. But the vets want to hear more about what's going on. It needs to be a breathing organization they feel bought into. So when they're sending out tweets or Facebook updates, it needs to be stuff that is not just, hey, this new hospital has got 20 new doctors. Because that doesn't make any sense to the vet. They're like, well, okay, that's great. But if one of the folks that runs the program tells a little bit about their life and about dealing with these programs and about their ideas and what they'd like to do, and it gives a face to the VA. And I think that's what's so important. Folks want to know a little bit more. They don't just want press releases.
Partners and great resources to help us get this right. I'm still going to, I keep coming back to this, and I think our first panel made this very clear. We've got to get to the front end of this instead of chasing our tails on the back end forever. I come at this from an education perspective, and I'm a teacher, and it just drives me nuts. We talk about closing the achievement gap. Every piece of research shows that by the time these kids get to be 18, it's virtually impossible to close the achievement gap. So we spend billions of dollars, tons of things, we don't get it done. We know that if we attack them between preschool, age 2 to 5, our success rates is much greater. This still comes back to the seamless transition. We're not going to get this right till it's all part of the same thing, till that culture changes, Tim, as you said, amongst that, till we group all our veterans together and we understand that once they get in there. My question to each of you, it's somewhat subjective, but I trust your opinions on this. You get this. Are we getting any closer? Is the virtual lifetime record moving us there? Are we getting any closer on seamless transition? Tom, you want to take it first?
A lot of different programs going on. I think one thing that is extremely important is there must be more VA contact. And there's actually a model already out there, and it's your average college or university alumni association. Everyone knows when you're a freshman and you get to that first intro to college, there's a rep from your alumni association there to meet you, to tell you about all the events going on campus, and then they're going to contact you throughout your whole 4 years, or in some people's case, 5 or 6 years. But what happens is they make...
And then the rest of your life for donations.
Exactly.
They will be there, so...
Exactly, sir. And that's the thing. They make those touches. They make those touches while you're there, so you become bought in. You become a part of that alumni association. And then that way throughout the rest of your life, they stay in contact with you. The VA needs to be the DoD's alumni association. They need to make that contact when you come into the fleet. When you are that young Lance Corporal or PFC or a young sailor or a young soldier or airman, they need to make that contact with you, and then they need to keep making that contact with you and your family throughout your time in uniform. So when you leave, it's that actual simple transition into the VA, because you already understand everything they do. You already understand the programs that are available.
Well, thank you, and I couldn't agree more with all of you. I think that's absolutely the key to this, and that this is the systemic change that will to help us prevent suicides. That's what we're trying to get at. So I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier this week, as Mr. Walls referred to, the VA announced a new rule change which went into effect yesterday morning, which gives veterans who served in a combat zone, servicemen or women, a presumed service connection for PTSD, and removes the necessity of proving a particular incident that was the trigger of that trauma. This committee, the full VA committee, voted unanimously for legislation that basically did the same thing, and it was on its way to the floor when the President and the Secretary, General Shinseki, moved in and did rule change to basically accomplish that piece of it. What impact do you see this as having on veterans being willing to come forward and seek treatment for possible mental injuries before they reach the point where they could harm themselves or others, and how best can the knowledge of this rule change be be spread far and wide in the veterans community, so that so that those who are afraid of rejection or afraid of stigma can have less of that fear and take advantage of this new opportunity. Tim, you want to start then?
Yes, sir. I think with the new rules for PTSD, what it does is it makes it easier for the veterans to get the care that they need. There are very good counselors within the VA system, and there are very good doctors that have very effective treatment to help these folks. But unfortunately, the process was so long before with the old rules, it was very hard. Say if you were a female veteran who had served in a forward operating base in Al Anbar province in Iraq, and you got mortared on a regular basis, or you served as a machine gunner on multiple convoys, but you walked into a VA system that didn't understand that women are in combat, and you had to sit there and prove these horrible things that happened to you and relive it every time you're trying to prove your case. That was awful. It was very unfair to the former service members. So I think now that the rules have changed and we're making it easier for folks to get to that care, that has been a major step forward, and we're very pleased to see that. We think a lot more service members and veterans are going to be able to get the care they need, because they're not going to have to go through that 6-month, 9-month process to say, yes, I got blown up, or yes, I was shot at, or yes, I watched my buddy die right in front of me. Be it man or woman in uniform, this eliminates one more barrier for those folks seeking treatment. Thank you for the question, because I think one of the things that's very important, like I mentioned before, I do think that there needs to be a training for your corporal's course, your sergeant's course, your staff NCOs, your lieutenants and your captains, because these are the folks that, for a young Marine or soldier just coming to the military world, these folks are like God to them. They tell them when to get up in the morning and when to go to sleep at night. They tell them when they're getting paid. They tell them when they're going to eat chow. So these folks need to be the ones that can recognize private, I'm trying to refrain from using military terminology, or Marine Corps terminology at least, Private Smith, let's say. If Private Smith's acting funny, the platoon sergeant or the squad leader is going to be the first one to recognize this. And they're going to be the ones that say, you need to go get treatment for your mental health. Because that way you make the fighting force stronger. Because we PT to make sure our legs are strong so we can run across the battlefield. We lift weights to make sure we can throw our buddy over our shoulder when we need to get him out of harm's way in the kill zone. We need to make sure that we're also exercising our minds and that we can recognize injuries. You can recognize when someone rolls an ankle or blows out a knee. You need to be able to recognize if they're having a mental health issue, be it depression, be it combat stress. So I think we need to make sure the folks that have the everyday interaction with our young soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines need to be the ones that, they don't have to be taught to be a clinician by any way, shape, or form. They need to be taught just to recognize that someone needs to go get that mental health treatment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And I want to, again, thank you